Great. Well, thanks for joining me this afternoon as we have a little bit of a think about Excel and how it can be utilised as a tool to really help us in the school office and, you know, more broadly in the school. I think Jennifer was just saying how you know, she uses it quite heavily, Excel, but would like to learn more. And we had someone else saying, you know, how it's a tool that's frequently used in the school office, but actually very little training has been provided on that. And as I say, today I'm going to go through some functionality. This is the sort of brief agenda that I'm looking to cover. So going to go through looking at how we kind of interrogate and work with data in Excel. And I think this is one of the sort of key areas really in the school office. Often, you know, data flows through the office. It might be that we're running reports from our MIS system, and we're taking data out and we're looking to do something with it. Maybe it's to create user accounts with a software system. Maybe it's to try and calculate attendance rates and things like that. Often we end up trying to work with data in Excel, and actually the truth is, if with a bit of knowledge around Excel, you can get it to do some work for you and save yourself a load of time. And that's what I want to focus on. Often that involves the usage of formulas, and so we'll dig in and have a look at kind of the basics around how you go about forming, how you go about creating formulas, and what you can do with the different formulas in Excel. And it is, you know, worth saying that, you know, Excel is massive and there's a great deal of stuff you can do. There's some people that are just, you know, proper Excel wizards. A lot of people work with Excel day in, day out, and, you know, the capability is huge. But actually, even without a great deal of knowledge and a great deal of time to learn, you can actually really start to, you know, get Excel working for you to do jobs on your behalf, save you a load of time. And another common, you know, thing which, you know, is useful in a administrative environment is the ability to mail merge data out of the likes of Excel into something like Word or Publisher to create letters which have got data in the, you know, which are customized to different people. And, you know, documents that are customized to different people, maybe labels, you know, that can be customized to different people. These are all things which mail merge is a functionality which allows you to do that in Word and Publisher, but you need a source of data to be able to populate that, and that's where Excel comes in. Right, so without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my spreadsheet and we're going to go into Excel. If I just need to move this around onto the, so you can see it. Hopefully you can all see that, and hopefully my head isn't in the way. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit more what's going on. Right, so here we are. I've got a spreadsheet open, and this spreadsheet concerns this is all to do actually with stationery products that have been sold by different members of staff. Okay, in a particular area. It's just some dummy data I managed to get off the internet, but there's enough of it that it helps me, you know, demonstrate a few points. In Excel, you know, Excel is a spreadsheet environment. We've got cells. Each of these are cells, and the whole spreadsheet is split into. Let me just admit this person. Hang on. Okay. Whole spreadsheet is split into, we've got rows down the left hand side and we've got columns along the top, and, you know, with a sort of fairly standard grid reference style system, we could say that a particular cell, this one for example, that I've selected here, it's gone green, that is C9. It's a bit, you know, it's like reading a map, isn't it? This one here is E10, and that, you know, that might seem fairly obvious for some, but actually it's quite an important thing to recognize that each cell has a name, because we can use that to reference the cells as we go along. Now, I've obviously got some data in these cells. One of the first tools that I want to launch in and show you is around sorting and filtering data. often if you've got quite a lot of data, a classic example of that is maybe if you've got a load of data, you've run off a report from your MIS system of all the children, you've got the class names alongside. What if you want to filter that data to just show children from a particular class? Normally we would have the different sort of field names across the columns along the top. You know, normally that's how spreadsheets tend to be oriented. So let's say we want to filter here. I want to select, and I only want to show the pencils which have been sold. Okay, I can click. As you might notice, I've got a little down arrow here that's pre-populated so that I could actually unselect everything and click pencil, and it will do it. But you'll find the reason that we've got all these arrows showing along the top is that this is formatted as what they call a table in Excel. Usually when you receive a spreadsheet downloading from a system or whatever, it won't be like this. So don't worry, you can still filter the data. You go to the data tab at the top, and why is that? I wonder. Hang on, get rid of me filters. Oh yeah, that's good, isn't it? Fortunately, I've got a backup plan. I'm not quite sure why that one is grayed out, which is I didn't check that before I launched forth. Here's some actual pupil data. I'm going to show you some stuff with this in a little bit. So I'm going to select this column, which is different classes of children, and I'm going to click filter. So in the data tab, click filter, and you can see the down arrow appears at the top. So maybe I can click this select all button at the top to take the ticks out of everyone. Maybe I just want to see the year 5 children. So I do that, and this will change the view there. So I'm just looking at year 5, and so it's changed. Now you see on the left hand side the row numbers have gone blue, and that means that it's not showing all of the rows. It's telling me that it's this filtered view. It's not showing everything. So here we are. If you ever go into a spreadsheet and feel like you're missing stuff, yeah, have a look across the top and see if any of them they've got like the filter icon, because if they have, you can just go in and clear the filter like so. Okay. It is also possible for us to sort of define our own filters. So I'm just looking at an example on this list. We've got a child called Freddie and a child called Fred. So what if I do a filter on that column? I can click the filter again. I'm in the data tab at the top. Look, I can click filter, and this time, rather than you can see, rather than sort of selecting these particular things, I could say the text filter. I want to search. I want to show examples where the child is has the word Fred in, and there we go. We've got 3 different spellings of Fred, Freddie, and Freddie. They're all showing there. And that is an example of of how we can use a text filter and customize that. Again, to get rid of that, I can just click on that the filter icon at the top, this sort of funnel, and I can click clear the filter, and it will show me all of the data back again. So the other feature that I was going to show you here about in terms of sorting data to look at is literally the sort button here, and this is often quite a powerful one. In this instance, I've got some children, the class they're in and their gender, and I can see that this is their attendance. So maybe we're interested, we want to sort this data and put it in order of those children that have the worst attendance to those that have the best. So I'm going to click sort. I don't know if you noticed, but I've clicked, if I click in the top left hand corner here, there's this button here that selects everything. So I can do that, or I can actually select the actual column that I want to sort upon. So I'm going to click sort there, expand the selection. You notice it selects everything, which is kind of why I automatically went to go and hover over that thing in the top left hand corner. I guess I knew subconsciously it was going to do that. So I'm going to sort by, well, which column do I want to sort by? I want to sort by the this one, the roll call attendance, and it's going to be smallest to largest. That's fine. If I wanted to add an additional column to sort upon, I could click add there. Maybe I want to sort it based upon the registration group as well. But in this case, I'll do that, and lo and behold, it's changed these to be in the order from smallest to largest. Okay, so we can see children that have got attendance of and their percentage increasing. You may have noticed on the left hand side these columns all changed as well, because obviously we don't want to just change the values in this column here but leave all these as they were. We want to make sure that Daisy's attendance stays next to Daisy's name, and so by doing that sort, when I expanded the selection, that makes sure that basically ensures that that happens. It covers all the data and the whole data in the sheet based upon that. So there we are. What if then I've got this and I want to show only those children that have attendance below 50%? So I can sort and I can filter. So I'm going to do a number filter in this case. Now here's a thing that I want to point out, but don't want to go into too great detail with. If we go to home and then select on a cell, Excel can treat the values of cells in a different way depending on what it thinks it contains. So in this case, we've got some percentages, and if we select these, we can see this drop down on the home page here. It's the data type is percentage, and that's good because it means we can I'll be able to say in a minute I want to filter based upon those values that are below 50%. If, for example, the information here was money, and I'll show you an example of that, I'll go back to my other spreadsheet in a minute, or a date, we could use some logic based upon that. Like if it was a date, we would, on the filters, we could say, show me dates before the 1st of September, or show me dates between these, these two things. So that it's possible to do that with filters, but your data, the cells, need to be classified. And so Excel understands what type of data is in them. It might do it automatically depending on what you've got there, but if it doesn't, you can select the data on the home tab, change the data type up here. Right, so we were going to do a filter, weren't we? So if I click on the down arrow there, I'm going to do a filter, and I'm going to say is less than or equal to 50. Is that going to work? Let's try that out. I'm wondering if this is going to work. Yes, it is. I needed to put the percent sign in. So there we go. That's by doing a filter there. It showed it's done that analysis. So this is particularly useful when it comes to if you've got data, you're just trying to manipulate it. Those are two tools which can be really helpful. And then we could maybe, if we want, we could just copy and paste this data that we filtered and do something else. With that. Okay. Well, I'm going to go back to my other spreadsheet, the one that didn't let me sort or filter, but hopefully it will let me do some of the other things I'm going to show you how to do. So I want to show you a few basic formulas that we can use to start manipulating the data. Why might you want to do this? Well, a classic example is if we're trying to create a total, we're trying to add something up or trying to create an average. And I'll show you how we go about doing that in a minute. The first one I want to do, you can see I've got some columns along the top here. And this is a sort of classic thing in an Excel spreadsheet where we're trying to calculate costs. In this instance, we've got the unit cost for the item that's been sold and the number of units that have been sold. So if I'm trying to create some totals for this to try and work out, okay, well, so what's the total value of pen sets? £4.99 each, and we sold 1,001. Well, the sum for working that out is to multiply £4.99 by 1,001. That's the logic that we're trying to do. So the formula would be that multiplied by that. Okay, but one of the things in Excel is rather than putting the actual number in, we reference the cell that contains the value. Big benefits around doing that are that if we then change the value in that cell, if the price changes, then it will automatically recalculate the other cells that depend on it. So let's have a look at that. How can we do a basic formula? Right, we can type in the formula bar, or in the cell itself, we can just type in the equal sign, which starts creating a formula. And then we can actually just click with our mouse. We can say we're going to take that column, or that cell, and I want to multiply this. The sign for that, if you look on your numpad, if you've got a sort of full-size keyboard with your computer, over on the right-hand side, you've got your plus and minus, but there's also the star, that's multiply, and the /, that's divide. So in this instance, I'm going to click the star, and it's going to be this. So I had not really had to type much stuff on other than the equals, which basically tells Excel we're going to start doing a formula. So, and then I added the I don't know what we call that in maths, you know, whether I'm adding it or multiplying it or whatever. I put that in, and then I selected the cells. Right, so now simply I just press enter to finish, and lo and behold, whoa, it's not only done the first one, but it's actually done everything else in the column as well. Okay, now Excel won't always do that, and I'm just going to delete some of these. It won't always work that out, but what you can do, if you can see in this first instance, we've got the first 3 values done. We don't want to go down and put that same formula in for each of the rest of the cells. So what I can do is select those that I've done. Essentially, I've got Excel started. I've said, here's the trend. In each case, I want to multiply that by that, that by that, that by that, etc., etc. I can select those, and if you can see the cursor moving around, at the moment it's a sort of white cross. If I hover over here, it changes to a 4-way arrow thing that allows me to move it. And if I hover over the little green square in the corner of these cells, it changes to a little black cross. And that allows me to select and do what we call fill down. So I can start moving down here, and I'm going to copy all these values down, and lo and behold, it's taken that formula and done it for each line. If I click on this one, for example, I can see, oh, well, actually, it's just done exactly the same thing at the top. The reason it's been clever is because I think I mentioned before, this is done within a table in Excel, which when you start in Excel, if you're starting from scratch, you can insert a table. There's no need for me to do that because I've already done it, but if you do that, it kind of adds a little bit of intelligent functionality into the data which you've got there. But it's entirely, you don't have to. You can literally just open Excel and start completing the cells. But if you do that, you won't have the down arrows at the top for your filtering, and you won't have some of the automated formula functionality. But it's not a problem. You can do it manually, as I've just shown how to do it. Right, so let's go back. Let's have a look at another type of formula then. So, okay, how would I calculate what the VAT would be on that? Well, assuming we're looking at VAT at 20%, I can say my formula is equal to that multiplied by 0.2, I think. Is that right? Press enter, and there we go. Look, it's calculated what the VAT would be for all of those. So there's another sum based upon the value of the cell. So if I'm going to say what's my total including VAT, it would be that plus that. So let's do it again. We're going to do a formula. So what do we begin with? Equals that. Use the plus sign this time. Can you see me typing it in? That plus that. Press enter, and lo and behold, that has done that. So there's, you know, classic functionality, some basic formulas: adding, dividing, multiplying, subtracting. You can do it all in Excel. And if you wanted to add some sort of further maths logic, you could use brackets and things like that, as you would if you're working something out, you know, on a piece of paper. You can, any logical calculation, we can basically add it in as a formula, say this cell, take away this cell, and then multiply the whole thing by the value of that cell. And it's quite actually straightforward to do. I mentioned another classic piece of data that people want to get out of numbers in spreadsheets is to add, you know, what's the total or what's the average of the number. So let's just scroll down my total excluding VAT column. Let's say I'm going to add a total. I've selected a blank cell at the bottom. You'll notice that this particular spreadsheet is formatted. There's no grid lines. This one's got lots of grid lines. Okay. Well, that's easier. The reason for that in the view here is the grid lines are switched off. If I click that, we'll show them back again. Maybe I'll do that for the rest of the presentation. But if you can select cells and use tools like here to format, you know, the cells of the table, or format individual cells, and by turning off the grid lines, you can end up with something which looks nice and tidy. But I'm going to turn it back on just so you can see the cells that I'm actually clicking on. So I'm going to click on that one, back to my home tab at the top. And this is a classic. This is a classic thing here, the Greek symbol of sigma. Okay, it's this one over here. If that, by clicking that, it will automatically default to doing a sum of the column above it. So you can see it's selected the data. If it didn't quite cover all the data that I wanted, I could drag this blue flashy bit so it covers all the data I want. You can see the formula there is sum H2 to H45. So that is the formula to add everything together. Press enter, lo and behold, that is the value of all of those cells added together. What about, let's say this cell here, we're interested, so this is the units, this column here. What's the average? What's the average units we've sold? If we click over at up in the top right hand corner here, click the little drop down here, rather than clicking sum, we can click average. And that will, if we do that, we can see the average of different items sold is 71.07. I think that's a mean average. I believe it is possible to even specify the different type of average that you want to run in Excel, but I'm not really smart enough to show you that today. So there we go. Now then, that's all well and good. And that might be useful, particularly when you're working with numbers. It might be money, it might be percentages, anything like that. You can manipulate and use formulas for working with money and numbers. But what about if we're working with words and names of children? And it goes back to a classic one. I don't know if certainly I see this quite a bit, you know, different software systems requiring data regarding the children so that we can create usernames and things like this. That's good. But what if we need to manipulate the data to be in the right format? And that's something that which Excel can help you with and actually save a great deal of time with. We can use formulas to work with words. Now, we can't add words together by search, but we could, in the sense that over here, we've got the person's first name and their surname, and they're in different cells. So what if I want to basically combine these together in one cell? Right, we'll try and do this, okay? Now this gets a little bit more complicated, but I don't expect you to remember this, but I suppose the reason I'm going to show you this is so that you know it's possible, and then maybe you might need to go back and look up the syntax for the formula. It's what we call a concatenate, which I think means, it's a posh way of saying join. So I'm going to say equals con. I don't know if you can see, I mean, there's just thousands of functions within Excel. And as soon as I start typing in, it's brought up different ones, but the concat is one. And here we go. This is the classic bit where I see how easy it is or not to do. And I'm going to put a comma there in between, and then I'm going to select the surname. So I'm still doing some selecting, press enter. Oh, okay, it's done it. That's good. That's a breath of relief. I remember the first many times I did this, I always had to go and look up to see what I'd done wrong. Well, that's all well and good. And maybe that would be useful if we want the username in that particular format. What if, for example, we were trying to create an email address? Okay, so I could go to my formula at the top, and here's where it's liable to start going a little bit pear-shaped, but we're going to give it a go. I'm going to click comma and do do a square set of brackets at s.com. So should have checked this out before I launched forth and did it. Oh, there we go. I think I was overthinking things with my my brackets. Let me just see if there's somebody trying to join. No, I think we're okay. So there we go. By adding that into my formula, you can see it's oops. If this starts happening, you can't click on a formula and clicking and you start, oh, it's trying to rewrite the formula. Just click the escape button and it comes out of that. Well, that's great. So it's actually taken my, you know, first name, surname at test.com. Well, that might be useful if I'm trying to sort of, I don't know, create a list of email addresses or something like that to send to somebody. Oh, it's not quite right though, because it's supposed to have a dot in the middle. Okay, well, what if I open brackets, put a dot in, and then put a comma, press enter, and lo and behold, it's updated the names on the right hand side. So this can be a super useful thing if you are trying to basically get a load of names into a format that you want. It is possible even within this, and this is something that I can't remember the syntax off the top of my head, but you can actually say, I actually want the first 2 letters from this column, and so it would be something like, rather than Kate.Kirill, it would have K.Kirill. You can do that. I think it's something, I can't remember the exact syntax for that. You put something like 1 or L1, and then there's information online of how you can do that. So if you've got a list of 300 names and you're trying to do something with them, you don't have to go down one by one by one. Spend 2 minutes getting the formula right, and then you can press go and it will do everything for you. I was just going to add a we'll just sort of create some test data to demonstrate something else to you, hopefully. Just going to quickly, let me just quickly create another sheet down on this spreadsheet. So you can have multiple sheets of data on one spreadsheet, which can be useful, and you can reference the data. Oh dear, that's good, isn't it? You can reference the data from one sheet on another sheet if it's in the same file. That's something you can do. Something I wanted to show you again, linked with manipulating data, is another tool which is often super powerful but sometimes overlooked, and that is the ability to do what we call a find and replace on the data. So I mean, I could, up here in the top right hand corner, I could do a find. I could click find here, and I want to find all of the people called Jill, and that's good, isn't it? Why has it not done that? Maybe it's because I need to select the data. Let's do a search for Jill again. That's good. Maybe it's, I don't know why it's not working. Okay. That would normally work. There's clearly something weird I've done with my data in this situation. What if I wanted to do a find replace on test.com and change it to something else? If I type in test.com in here, so I went to find, and I actually did this by clicking Control and F, brought up this box, it goes to the find box, and you can change it to click toggle to replace here. So I'm going to change it. So rather than saying test.com, it says another.com. So click replace all, and it's gone through and updated the values for everybody. This is a good skill. You can use this in Word as well, across the Office suite. Find and replace. You find an instance of a particular word, go through and change it, and lo and behold, that will sort your, will change the data in the way that you want to do that. Let's stay on here a minute then. So we've covered how we can sort and filter data. We've covered some basic formulas that can be done around data, and we looked at how you can use the sigma button in the top right hand corner for doing totals and averages. We've taken a look at find and replace, and we took a look at concatenate as well. That can be quite useful. There was another function which I wanted to show you in terms of manipulating data, and that is the ability to also split the contents of columns based upon, I'm just looking to see if I've got an example of where I can show this, based upon if maybe you've got a column. I mean, let's look at this column, for example. All right, let's get out of there. Let's say this column here, I want to split the year, the day, and the date into different columns. I can do that. I can take, if data's got separator in it, like in this case, a dash or a full stop or a space, I can use that. So an example would be if you've got the children's first name and then space and then their surname in one column, you can split that into 2 columns. Okay, that's a classic example where you would use this. So I'm going to click on the column there. I'm going to click the data tab at the top and click text to columns. I'm just going to click there, click on next, and in this case I can see the actual data, even though they've got hyphens here. That's because of the way the data is formatted. The dates have actually got sort of /. So I'm going to click /, click next, and do that. And lo and behold, oh right. So what in this case is going to mess up with the data I've got in the other columns. I would have needed to right click and insert. Let's just do it. If I right click a column at the top, I can add a new column. I can add 2 more if I want to. Right, so let's try and do it again. We're going to go through /. That's fine. That's fine. That's okay. Yeah. Okay. And it's done something weird here because of the way the data is formatted. If I select that data, I'm going to change it actually just to general. So it's, I'd have to say this is the day, this is the month, and this is the year. But it's made the point that it's possible to split data in like that. But there's text to columns. As I say, the probably time you'll find this most useful is if you've got a list of children's names and it's got their full name and you want to split it out in Excel to be the first name and then their surname, you can just do that in text to columns. And also, if I don't know, if you're trying to manipulate data for another system, it's a function which is, I find, quite useful, quite easy to use. Right, the last thing I want to show you on the technical side of things is around mail merge, and then we will have a bit of a stop and maybe have a chat, and you can question me over any of the stuff we've talked about, or raise any questions which you have got. So let's take my data here. Here are my my pupils, and I want to send a letter to each family. I'm just going to check where this is saved. That's brilliant. It's in a slightly random location, possibly because it crashed, I think. Let me just quickly save it somewhere I know it is. It's important to know where your data is saved if you're going to mail merge it. So let me just redo that. Right. So that's actually in a location where I know it's saved now. So here's my data source, and I want to basically take some of the data from this spreadsheet and put it into a letter in Word. And yet this might be a classic thing to do if you're trying to create some bespoke letters, maybe, or it could be labels, anything like that. You've got some data out of your MIS and you want to put it into Word. We'll sort of park up our data here for the moment, and I'm going to go into Word. And here's a very basic letter which I've started to compose. Okay, so it's just a standard Word document at the moment. I've got a couple of lines on it. Looking at the options across the top of Word, there's probably a few which you don't use very often. References, and which we're going to gloss over now, but mailings is the one which is specifically related to mail merge. And as I mentioned before, you can do this in both Word and in Publisher. Everything's largely grayed out at the moment because I need to click Start and Mail Merge. That's fine. Well, what am I going to mail merge? Oh, actually, well, I'm going to ignore that, actually, and I'm going to go directly to Select Recipients. Okay. If I do this Start, it starts to say, offer me lots of different templates and a step-by-step wizard, which might be helpful if you're inexperienced with this. I guess I'm more experienced, and I want to show you actually how kind of simple it is to cut to the chase. So I'm going to say Select Recipients, selecting the data essentially that I'm linking with my letter. I'm going to use an existing list, which is my spreadsheet. So I'm clicking on there. Where's my spreadsheet saved? I'm going to try and find it. It's here somewhere in presentations, pupil data, and that's it. And it's saying there's a couple of bits and pieces. I think, let me just check. Oh yeah, it doesn't help that I've got a couple of sheets open, but it's this one, report data. So now everything's not grayed out, and basically now I can reference the data which is held in that spreadsheet composing my letter. So this attendance letter is regarding, so let me insert merge field. Look, it shows me the data, the different columns from my spreadsheet. So I'm going to put the first name. That's it. Your child has an attendance of, well, it was this one here, the roll call attendance, the last column across. I'm not going to even bother doing anything with these middle two, but let me just show you. So there we go. I might be doing this on the school letterhead. I might have a whole load of other text on here inviting parents to a meeting or all sorts of different bits and pieces. And it is possible to, you know, add rules in to only send this to children that have below 90% attendance and things like that. I'm not going to complicate it now. I can click the preview results button at the top if I want to, and this is going to show me, well, look, there's our child with 0% attention. That's fine, whatever. And if I click on these arrows at the top, it will take me through the different children and their attendance. It's showing it as a sort of slightly weird number there, possibly because it was a percentage. If I wanted to, I could change the format of that column in Excel. Rather than having a percentage, I could just change it to essentially a word, you know, number or general, and that would basically display it as exactly as it's being displayed in the spreadsheet. I can click finish and merge now, or save the content of what I've merged into a Word file, or print it out. If I mentioned, you know, doing labels, if you've got a label template, you could put a child's name and then you can, you know, also add your own words. And this is one of the reasons, you know, some folk are using MIS systems that allow you to create labels directly out of them. That's all well and good, but there's often little, you know, it's sometimes quite limited in terms of how much you can customize the label. If you create a report from MIS with the children's names in it, you could totally customize what you want on your labels. You imagine a label template here. We can get the wording and the formatting exactly how we want it. All you would do if you wanted more than one result on a page is go to the rules and click next record at the end of each one. So let's say we had a grid of 4 labels on this page. We'd have our words in each label bit with the next record. If I come back out of there, next record flag there, so it knows to move on to the next record on that same page without starting a new page. Again, there's, you know, guides online on how to do that, but that is you know, so it's quite simple to do, and it's, you know, worth being aware that that's, you know, it's something that you can use Excel in conjunction with Word and Publisher to do. And you know, don't be too, you know, I don't want it to be too sort of mysterious, you know, and beyond reach. Yeah, it's quite simple functionality. Once you've done it once or twice, you'll be cooking gas. There are some, I don't know if I've got it open actually. Let me just go to a tab and see if I can quickly find it. There's some good resources online going back through some of the basic things that I've shown you here today, and I'm going to put a link to this in the chat in a moment. Let's just come back on here. So I'm going to put a link to this in the chat. So these are short videos created by Microsoft looking at things like creating formulas and actually going into some more in-depth functionality, which I haven't covered today, like pivot tables, you know, some tools which really help you when it comes to sort of analyzing data. The videos are usually about 1.5 minutes long, and it's a good place to go. Otherwise, you know, there's so many resources online, you know, talking you through step by step how to do different bits and pieces. I'd encourage you to get stuck in, give it a go. Excel might look a bit sort of, yeah, impenetrable, but actually there's stuff you can do when it comes to manipulating data that can really help save time. But I'm going to stop the recording in a second and open the floor for any sort of questions or